Good evening, and we are back with the Rainbow Default Files. I'm TK, and today we're not talking about the news. We are talking about something altogether more important to car culture, and we're talking about design. Why don't we put words on cars anymore? Cars used to have words on them, and they used to have a lot of words on them. We used to put entire dictionaries on the sides of cars, full-on paragraphs in some cases. Mitsubishi Delica was a run-on sentence right on the side of the vehicle. You know, if you had a Toyota Corolla, if you had the twin cam, everybody knew it because it said it in size 72 font on the side of the vehicle. If you had 16 valves, your neighbors needed to know, everyone you worked with needed to know that you were the big shot with 4 valves per cylinder. If you had 5 valves per cylinder, people probably thought you were a bit odd, but they knew about it because your car had a big 20V on the side of it somewhere. The peak for this was the 1980s. It came in a little earlier in some cases. Some automakers were doing this in the 1970s, but it really had its peak in the 1980s. This was a transformational time in the automotive world. This is when the new technology was coming in, when double overhead cams were the hotness, when more valves were the hotness, when turbos were the hotness. And so if you were spending the big bucks to get this on your car, the automakers made sure you knew about it, and they made sure everyone else did too. If you went and bought a Toyota 4Runner or a Hilux Surf, as it was known in the JDM market, it said turbo on it in big orange letters. It looked so good. Here's the thing, I think I know why this happened. In the 1990s, things went curvy. We got rid of side trims, we got rid of two-tone paint jobs, we got rid of a lot of the elements that served as the anchor for this text, right? So if you no longer had your black contrast trim on your white car, okay, where are you putting the twin cam? There's not a great spot for it. In the 1990s, we started seeing a lot of this stuff die away. But on top of that, cars have become a lot less hardware essentialist. What do I mean by that? Well, let me explain. It's a little complicated, but think about it like this. The words, numbers, model names now bear no relation to reality on most cars. It used to be that if you bought a BMW 330i, it had a 3-liter engine. If you bought a Mercedes E240, it had a 2.4-liter engine. Automakers across the board used to do this stuff. It was all tied in together. You know, the model name or the numbers or whatever it was would have some relation to the reality of the hardware in the car. Eventually though, automakers started doing things differently. Downsizing came in, turbocharged engines came in, they started going away from big displacement engines. Suddenly, you know, a C63 from Mercedes didn't have a 6.3-liter engine in it anymore. But they still needed the 63 badge because the rich people wanted a 63. You know, they don't want to buy a C59 next year. They want the 63 because that's what their mate had last year, and they need to be just as big as him, if not bigger. And so there was this detachment between the badging and the reality of what you were getting under the hood. So that's part of it, but that's not the whole story, because the other aspect is technology in vehicles has flattened. Back in the 1980s, if you bought a cheap hatchback, if you bought an Opel Corsa, Vauxhall, whatever, the base model might be an 8-valve, you know, 2-valve per cylinder, carbureted little dogger. Terrible choice of word, but you get what I'm saying. Meanwhile, if you got the good one, you know, if you bought the sports model, the GTI or the I or whatever it was, you get the 16-valve engine with the dual overhead cams. That was special. Today, even the slow cars have 16 valves and double overhead cams in the 4 cylinders, so on and so forth. So there's not really a point of difference. Just about every car on the market today could have a dual overhead cam sticker. So it's not a point of difference. So there's no point sticking a badge on the side of the car to say it. To an extent, automakers still do a little bit, like Honda still chucks some like EV tech stickers on the side or whatever. But really, the problem is performance models, for example, the Honda Civic Type R. Yeah, it still says Type R on the side, but there's no point crowing about it being a 16 valve because all the Civics are 16 valves now. There's just not that differentiation in the raw technology and the raw numbers to put a sticker on the side to crow about. You can still put a Type R sticker on, but there's no point really saying, oh, it's got 16 valves because, you know, You know, my Mitsubishi Mirage has 16 valves, probably. I don't know. You know, everything has a turbo now. So turbo still kind of means something, but then you've got Porsche sticking turbo on EVs, and that's just making a mess of the whole thing. So in summary, there's a reason we don't have words on cars anymore. In fact, there's several reasons. One, technology across models is flat. You know, 16 valves, double overhead cams, turbo. It's not a differentiator because even cheap economy cars have those features now. Basically, it's state of tune that really separates a sports car now. Even though they have their own engines, it's just the state of tune that's the difference. It's not the raw number of valves and cylinders and so on and so forth. Plus, it's design. Today's curvier cars, you know, where are you going to put the words? There's less places to anchor it, and the graphics tend to look awkwarder on newer cars. As you can see, I've thrown up a few ideas here of my own creation. I'm no designer, but it really is hard to make a sticker pack work on a modern car. Believe me, I'm trying here. It's not really working. That's not to say that it shouldn't come back. I want Japanese automakers telling me about how the spirit of a horse and a rider coming together to be a samurai in the woods is I want that on the side of my MX-5. I'm kind of disappointed it wasn't on the side of my original one because that would have been cool. That whole Jinba Atai thing, I love it, as silly as it sometimes sounds. You know, they could be doing this, you know, and some cars do still have stuff to crow about. You know, I want people to know that my Yaris, you know, my GR Yaris, it's a 12-valve 3-cylinder, but it's fast. You know, give me a big 3 on the side of the thing so everyone knows that this isn't some regular Yaris. It's an odd one. You know, Koenigsegg have all kinds of stuff they could be bragging about. You know, a 1,000,000-speed transmission. You know, Bugatti, 16 cylinders. Someone should know that, even if they've never seen a Bugatti before, because it's plastered on the side, you know? Make that happen. Because I know there are a lot of designers out there. Hire some kid out of college, you know, or in college. Give him $1,000 and just tell him to design a sticker pack for your new car and make it an option. And I bet none of the other automakers will have it. We used to do this in the 90s all the time. Every car had decals and it wasn't special. No one has it now. Toyota, get some ridiculous sticker pack for the Yaris, for the Prius. It'll be cool. Trust me. Just make it happen. And if you've got these ideas, I want to see, go and draw something, go and do a Photoshop, hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on here, you send me a link, Imager, whatever you want to do. I want to see if we can bring words back on cars because I think we've been missing out. So this has been another Rainbow Default Files. Subscribe if you dig it. I want to do more of these. I want to talk cars. We're going to do more news. We're going to do more opinions. Not a Red Bull fan. I think Perez needs to be fired. Max needs to learn how to respect the rules. We're not going to get into that here. There's a story behind this jacket and there's a reason I'm wearing it, but we'll talk about that later. Till next time, TK out. Enjoy the Rainbow Default Files.